Now I hope this video isn't just a duplicate of another video. But anyways, you may say, Link, how do you treat yourself when you're tight for money or you don't want to waste money? How do you treat yourself? Now by that I mean buy something nice to eat. I don't mean go buy a pair of shoes or anything like that. Now a lot of people, they go and fill their car up with fuel. Walk in there and there they are with, fridges one side, and I'll grab a bottle of Coke and a Mars bar or some sort of chocolate bar. And they add another $5 onto their fuel bill, and it's all gone in the space of 5 minutes, and what they get is diddly squat for what they've paid. Any food at fuel stations, petrol stations, gas stations, whatever you want to call them, service stations, are dramatically overpriced. They're really expensive. We used to have, when we were at Boomeroo for quite a long time there, we had a lunch truck turn up, and the stuff there was dear on that lunch truck. But then this bloke ended up saying, I used to buy a few things at the lunch truck and I was worried about the cost. And then he said, I was in there paying for me fuel, and I looked at the cost of the stuff they had in there, and I thought, my gosh. And the cost of the stuff at this fuel station, I've got a bit of incense burning, was double what it was in the lunch truck. And then if you get that same stuff from a supermarket, it's diddly squat. But that's part of the thrill, is getting it when you're at the fuel station or having a lunch truck turn up, and it's part of the thrill that they get you to buy it with. But how I do it is I don't go in and buy lollies, but then buy them from a bulk place. And I do know of a place that sells bulk lollies, because I did deliver stuff there as a truck driver once. And there's plenty of those joints around that will sell bulk lollies if you go looking in the phone book for them. But I don't do that. What I realise here, supermarkets, and this is probably the same the world over, so check this out yourself. Supermarkets always tend to stock a bit of gourmet stuff. Now, the unadventurous white person, your general average suburban slob, whatever you want to call him, will go into a supermarket and just buy what they already know. Now, if they're sitting there with, this Indian neighbour who's invited them over for a meal or something like that, or some Indian friend, and they've got all this stuff sizzling up, and they can smell all the smells, and they can see it all being cooked up, and they go, whoa, gee, this looks good. Oh, they get right into it. You put that same stuff in a can, or even in a cardboard box, on a supermarket shelf, they won't touch it. They love it when they can see it being cooked up, they can smell it, they can see the Indian girl chucking the herbs in and all that business, a bit of coriander and garam masala and whatnot. But, you put it in a packet and stick it on the shelf, and then say it's gourmet, and, give it a nice packaging and a label and a fancy blooming, logo and some Dada Farms or something like that, some lovely sounding name, and then you put a whopping price tag on it to go with this gourmet line. And you know what happens? Some of the upper middle class may buy it. The average suburban slob doesn't touch it, and if it looks a bit interesting, it'll be fine if the Indian neighbour's cooking it up. But when they see it in a packet in the supermarket, I don't want to buy that. It probably tastes terrible. It probably and it's sort of, the appeal is basically damn near zero. So you get mountains and mountains of this gourmet stuff that goes out of date, and it gets 3 or 4 days off the use-by date, and it ends up in a certain section in the supermarket. Now, there is one in the dairy section at my local supermarket. There is another one on a shelf that's up near the deli, which is canned goods and stuff like that. There's another one which they often have this rack, and they move it around a little bit, but it's in this general corner of the shop. And there'll be bakery goods, and there'll be a whole heap of other things there. There can be flippin' hair dye, and often enough instead of going and getting a cake from the normal section, I go past there and there'll be a cake there, won't be $5, it'll be like $2 for the same damn cake that they're selling over yonder, and it'll still be fresh so long as you eat it within the next day or two. And then you sort of have another section in the meat section, which they put all the funny stuff there, the strange stuff that people may or may not buy, and like the chicken hearts, the chicken livers, and that. And my uncle used to get corned beef tongue, and if you've never actually, you don't know the size of a cow's tongue until you've actually seen one that's been cut out of a cow, and it is flipping huge. And he used to get them super cheap. And quite simply, I'm not saying go eat cow tongue, but I'm saying have a look in these areas, and you'll find stuff that's really cheap, and more often than not, almost guaranteed it'll be the gourmet brand, or it'll be something intriguing. And this is no good if you're just want lollies, full stop, da-da-da, but if you're a little bit adventurous, it's fine. You'll find some great things there. And I have found chocolate there. And, and cakes, as I said. This chocolate was a top name brand, and it had rock salt in it. And you think, why would you want salt in your chocolate? That'd be disgusting. That's what your brain thinks. And you may be correct. It may have been disgusting. Because some of these things they sell are still disgusting. But some of them you just assume they're disgusting, or, oh no, that'll upset my stomach because it's full of curry, but when you actually try it, it's alright. And rock salt in chocolate is good. And I got all these bars for way less than half the normal price, and there's a big heap of them. Another one is liver paste. They import this liver paste from Croatia in Eastern Europe, former Yugoslavia, and you sort of think they're going, oh, what the hell, liver paste? And you tell the average suburban slob liver paste, and it's sort of, oh, like this. But if you served some up and gave it to them, oh gosh, they'd say, well, this is not what I expected. And so there they were, about 6 or 8 cans, and I cleaned a lot of them out at about a third the price. Usually I'm battling to find it. I do sometimes buy it, but it's very expensive, and here it was. No one touches it. Nobody touches all this gourmet stuff because it's a little bit too high priced. They haven't tried that brand before, so they're not sure. It looks like some crazy stuff that could upset their guts. Or, oh my gosh, what the hell is liver paste? Well, you see, you learn something every day. I never knew people ate that crap. That's the 4 responses that are in their head. And at the end of the day, you get something that if you're adventurous with food, costs you diddly squat, and is probably just as good as the Indian neighbour who was cooking up all that stuff and throwing all the stuff in, and you're sitting there watching the girl mix it up, and you smell all the smells wafting over, you go, oh, this is fantastic, I could eat the whole lot of it. You can get stuff almost as good as that in packets, because nobody has the balls to buy it in the supermarket, and it hits the use-by date, or 2 or 3 days off, 4 days off, and it ends up there discounted. And that's how I treat myself. And I don't say I'm going to get this week, because it's always an adventure. You don't know what's going to be on that shelf. You don't know what they've decided or realised has hit the use-by date and then put on that shelf. And part of the fact that you don't know what you get makes it more adventurous to see what you could get. And when you do get it, it doesn't cost whatever it costs down at the service station, the fuel station for it. It costs a third of what you'd expect to pay for it. And some of these gourmet things, they knock the price down a bit, and it's not very much, and you're only going, I'm not paying, $4.50 when it was only $5.50, and it should only be worth about $2.50, or $2 or something. And other things you get there, and I've had yogurts that I swear have had flipping cream mixed in with the yogurt. Then they've had apricot puree in them, and flipping passion fruit with the seeds and all in these little tubs. And they were peanuts. Had gone from $2.50 to like 40 cents, and that was it, Here you are buying all this stuff that is absolutely brilliant tasting, for diddly squat, because everybody's either trying to cheap out or is not very adventurous or goes, I've never heard of that brand, or say, oh, that's just, ridiculously priced, that brand, so they don't touch it. But then when it drops to a third the price, it isn't very ridiculously priced anymore. So that's how I treat myself when I bring home all sorts of weird and wonderful things in that regard, and spend diddly squat in doing so.